Hi, welcome to this webinar. My name is Julian Arango and I work along with Fluid Attacks marketing team. In this webinar, we want to share key results of Fluid Attacks operations, a key element of a successful testing strategy. Let's begin with the flaws we have detected in a period of 12 months and what this tells us about risk and vulnerability management inside organizations. From November 2018 to November of 2019, we identified almost 100,000 vulnerabilities across 208 projects. The median number of vulnerabilities per project was 69. Across all weaknesses, severity was distributed as you can see here. Low and medium ones account for the vast majority of vulnerabilities. High and critical ones, in turn, represent almost 5% of the total. This is expected as higher risk flaws are rarer. This distribution also suggests that organizations sometimes fail to identify high and critical security holes. Another possibility is that occasionally they inject security defects in their system's development lifecycle without noticing. We will focus more on high and critical vulnerabilities in the rest of this webinar, as the potential impact of risks that might materialize is higher and sometimes irreversible. We classify our projects in two types. First, continuous hacking, where we test a system permanently, capturing their updates and changes over time. These projects are carried out when software, or more generally, a system has just begun its development. And second, one-shot hacking projects, a particular case of the former, where only one test is run according to a clearly defined target of evaluation and agreed security criteria. Here, we show a glimpse of the different attributes between both types, from attack cycles to time to fix. Interestingly, more than 3/4 of continuous hacking projects yield at least one high or critical severity vulnerability. This proportion goes down to 38% if we take one-shot hacking projects only. As software development and infrastructure evolve, more security holes might be injected. This can be detected only by continuous hacking. Considering the proportion of high and critical severity vulnerabilities by type of system, that is, infrastructure, deployed applications, or source code, we find similar differences when comparing continuous and one-shot projects. In infrastructure, the proportion is 15.6% for continuous hacking. In comparison, 14.3% in one-shot. In deployed applications, the difference is higher, 8.2% versus 3.7%. Finally, a sizable gap of high and critical vulnerabilities is present in source code auditing in both continuous and one-shot projects, 4.3% versus 1.1% respectively. These figures suggest that continuous hacking projects detect more severe vulnerabilities compared to one-shot hacking. We'll return to this insight further in this webinar. Now let's take a look at the most common vulnerabilities in the period. Fluid Attacks defined two ranks to describe the frequency of weaknesses. One, the number of projects in which a specific vulnerability was detected, and two, the total instances of a vulnerability, which we call persistence. Here's an example to clarify persistence. A SQL injection, a very known security hole, could be found in one or more input fields within an application, like a login form or a search field. The total number of places where a SQL injection can be performed equals its persistence. Within the top 10 in both rankings, 5 vulnerabilities were noticeable: technical information leak, using components with known vulnerabilities, no encryption for sensitive information, no data validation, and business information leak. From these flaws, it's apparent that the security triad, that is, availability, integrity, and confidentiality, can be seriously compromised. absence of good practices, like secure coding, complete hardening across infrastructure, are likely causes of their prevalence. Let's turn now to analyze vulnerability remediation behavior. At Fluid Attacks, we have Integrate, a red teaming management tool and communications platform. This platform coordinates all stakeholders in the testing and remediation processes by allowing reporting every single vulnerability with their details and status. Furthermore, Integrates enables the generation of the right information for the right people when they need it. From Integrates, we can analyze how organizations fix their vulnerabilities. Remember, the real objective of performing tests is to fix the defects found, in this case, security flaws. The rate of fixes we observed from continuous projects is 51%. In one-shot hacking, the observed fix rate is 38%. However, in these projects, we only track down what is repaired within 90 days. An organization can decide whether to fix a weakness, which is the desired path, or not. Let's take a look at the proportion of vulnerabilities that organizations choose not to fix, that we also call accepted vulnerabilities. Taking only continuous projects, the percentage of accepted vulnerabilities goes down as severity increases. 21% low severity vulnerabilities are accepted, but no critical flaws remain unaddressed. The trend is plausible. Organizations take fewer risks as their potential impact increases. Furthermore, we can analyze how breaking the build impacts the remediation process. We do this by using Forces, our product, to check whether vulnerabilities are still open, and if so, breaking the build forcing DevOps teams to perform all necessary fixes before releasing the system into production. In the slide, we can see the proportion of repairs associated with the use of this product. On the left, the comparison is brought with versus without Forces. To the right, we have a more specific comparison. Of those projects using Forces, we compare a configuration, strict mode on versus strict mode off. In short, just using Forces is associated with 145% more effectiveness in closing vulnerabilities. And of those using Forces, having a strict mode on yields 34% more fixes. However, the previous figures are just a picture in time, and we should look for metrics that also capture the change in time. Let's see how the rate of fixes vulnerabilities change over time. In this plot, we see the rate of fixes across all vulnerabilities in a red dotted line, as well as the number of detected unfixed flaws over time. This other plot shows the same data, but only from high and critical vulnerabilities. More severe weaknesses were addressed to a greater extent than less severe ones, showing an adequate prioritization. Notwithstanding, teams seemed to let their guard down as vulnerabilities overgrew. Another good metric is time to fix, that is, the length of time a vulnerability remains open. Here, we report median times instead of averages, as we observed extreme values in some cases. Taking all fixed vulnerabilities, we found that the median time to fix is 82 days. Organizations that use Forces fix flaws in 62 days, almost 25% less, whereas those that do not take up to 95 days, which is significantly more time. The use of Forces is associated with fixing vulnerabilities more quickly. Forces is an effective control. As customers receive explicit feedback about the state of reported vulnerabilities, they act more quickly to close those flaws. Now let's take all security holes, not only those fixed. First, we show a comparison between vulnerabilities coming from all projects versus flaws coming only from continuous hacking projects. The three colored squares describe thresholds of fixed vulnerabilities. Lilac is 20, purple in the middle is 30, and dark gray is 40%. we see that fixes are made faster if they come from continuous hacking projects. Reaching 20% of fixes requires 8 days less with a continuous hacking approach. Achieving 40%, 15 days less. Now, let's see how vulnerabilities coming from continuous hacking projects require more or less time to fix by analyzing the type of system. Organizations take longer to fix flaws from code, up to 20%, compared to vulnerabilities from deployed applications. However, reaching 40% shows a reversal of this behavior. Finally, a compelling statistics appears. Organizations seem to pay less attention to infrastructure vulnerabilities as they reach only 20% of fixes after 64 days. To conclude this section on fix behavior, let's review how severity is linked with time to fix. At a glance, we can see one coherent behavior. The higher the severity, the lower time to fix for all three thresholds. In other words, organizations properly prioritize repairs. However, the story is not that perfect. When we add medium severity vulnerabilities, we see significant delays to reach 30 and 40%. So far, we have shown the vulnerabilities Fluid Attacks has reported and analyzed across all projects in a year. You can be sure we will publish further and richer analysis from our operations. Keep an eye when we publish our report for 2021. Across all statistics, we could see that a continuous hacking approach results in more vulnerabilities detected and a higher rate of fixes. We want to dig deeper into why continuous hacking achieves this, and more importantly, why organizations should switch to this approach if they're still performing one-shot hacking once or twice a year, and are also behind in time to managing their testing processes in a centralized and more efficient way. Continuous hacking is a long-term strategy. It is capable of identifying more vulnerabilities as it involves performing several different testing techniques from the early stages of the system's development lifecycle. This also contributes to detect a lower proportion of high and critical vulnerabilities. A shift in left imposes an incentive to learn and adopt better practices such as secure programming, infrastructure hardening, and proper patch management. The incentive is achieving a lower time to market by reducing IT risk more quickly. In other words, investing in robust testing processes and management yields better results in the long run. This approach needs to be supported by a vulnerability remediation management system, in our case, integrates. Reporting vulnerabilities in a centralized system, their technical details, and business relevance is the first step to manage the remediation processes better and achieve more fixes, which is the practical goal of security testing. Moreover, tracking the status of vulnerabilities provides visibility to other business processes that harness their competitive advantage from high-quality technology. Business operations can be enhanced by transforming the weaknesses data into actionable information for all stakeholders, ranging from DevOps engineers up to C-level executives. It is precisely this coordination and visibility which enables organizations to address their vulnerabilities more quickly. In many cases, it is more cost-effective fixing flaws right away. Why? Because catching those defects early in the process makes them more accessible and quicker to fix, rather than accumulating vulnerabilities and triaging their treatment time later. To summarize, adopting a continuous hacking approach creates a virtuous cycle where testing can be performed faster without compromising effectiveness, assuring high-quality technology to support business operation and thus keep competitiveness in the market. Nowadays, testing must be performed faster, continuously, and preserving effectiveness. At Fluid Attacks, we promote the adoption of the following recommendations to make technology and security real business enablers in the competitive scenarios we live in. Organizations should shift left, that is, to test systems and software from the early stages of the development lifecycle. This way, organizations use their resources more efficiently and avoid potential costs in the future. Companies should give feedback quickly and often regarding testing and remediation processes. This can be achieved through a platform like Integrates, where data can be transformed into actionable information for all stakeholders when needed. The testing strategy should be comprehensive. That is, different techniques should be performed across the system's development lifecycle. Importantly, organizations should not stop at automated tests, as machines are incapable of integrating contextual and environmental information to discover more sophisticated threats. We suggest using human intelligence for this purpose. Let skilled security testers assess systems and leverage on previous vulnerabilities found. Finally, organizations should deploy one robust control within their testing processes. They need to break the build whenever weaknesses are still open. We invite you to read our ebook, Don't Crash Going Too Fast, Hacking with Speed and Precision, which expands a bit more the items we just discussed. And that's a wrap. If you find this webinar insightful and want to read more, we encourage you to check our State of Attacks annual report, where you can find a more detailed description of our results. Thank you for attending this webinar. We look forward to hearing from you.